Most people thinking about moving to Europe picture Paris or London. They check rent prices, compare them to their paychecks, and often decide the move isn't realistic. But across Europe, there are cities where average monthly salaries exceed $3,000, rent stays under $1,000, and overall quality of life often surpasses what those major capitals offer. These places don't get much attention not because they lack opportunity, but because they aren't the usual headline names. In this video, we're looking at the 10 best cities to live and work in Europe in 2026, based on real salary and rent data. Stay until number 1, because the top city may not be the one you're expecting. I will start with number 10, Bratislava, Slovakia. Bratislava sits on the Danube River in a rare spot where Slovakia, Austria, and Hungary come very close together. That means you can cross into another country in under an hour without needing a flight. Vienna lies only 60 kilometers away, and Budapest sits roughly 200 kilometers to the east, placing you within reach of 3 major European capitals. The old town is compact and easy to walk, filled with medieval streets, pastel-colored buildings, and outdoor cafes that come alive from spring through early fall. From a cost perspective, Bratislava is still relatively affordable compared to Western Europe. The average monthly salary is around €1,400 to €1,800 after tax. A one-bedroom apartment in the city center typically costs between €700 and €1,000, while total monthly living expenses for a single person often come in around €600 beyond rent. The city has also seen steady job growth in IT, finance, engineering, and shared services, thanks to international companies setting up regional offices here. Another advantage is that Slovakia uses the euro, which makes budgeting easier if you're coming from other European countries. The trade-off is size and energy. Bratislava has fewer than 500,000 residents, so its nightlife and entertainment options are more limited than those in larger nearby cities. English is widely spoken among younger professionals, but less common with older residents. Still, for affordable Central European living with instant access to major cities, it's an underrated option. Number 9, Warsaw, Poland. Warsaw is a city that carries a very unusual history. It was almost destroyed during World War II and later rebuilt piece by piece, which is why its old town feels almost too perfect. It's a carefully reconstructed version of what once stood there. Today, that historic center is surrounded by a fast-moving modern city filled with glass towers, business districts, and one of the strongest growing economies in Central Europe. Economically, Warsaw has been on a sharp upward path. Average monthly take-home pay for professional jobs is roughly €1,800 to €2,200, with higher salaries in fields like tech, finance, and consulting. At the same time, a one-bedroom apartment in the city center typically costs between €800 and €1,200, while monthly living expenses outside rent are usually around €650. Poland's flat 12% tax rate on lower income brackets also helps workers keep more of what they earn compared to many Western European countries. Warsaw has become a major hub for international companies, including firms like Google, Samsung, and Goldman Sachs, drawn by skilled talent and lower operating costs. Public transport is efficient and affordable, and the food scene has improved in recent years. Winters are cold and long, but for professionals seeking opportunity and lower costs, Warsaw offers a strong balance of income potential and affordability. Number 8. Athens, Greece. Athens is one of those cities where history isn't something you visit, it's just part of daily life. The Acropolis rises above the entire city the same way it has for over 2,500 years, and locals pass it on their commute like it's a normal landmark, even though it really isn't. The Aegean Sea is only about 20 minutes from the city center, and on weekends you can reach the Greek islands by ferry in just a few hours. Life here moves at a different rhythm, shaped by the weather, the sea, and a strong cafe culture built around long conversations rather than rushing anywhere. From a financial standpoint, Athens is still relatively affordable compared to most Western European capitals. Average monthly net salaries for professional roles sit around €1,200 to €1,500. A one-bedroom apartment in the city typically costs between €500 and €800, while total monthly living expenses outside rent are usually around €700. That balance is one of the reasons the city has become attractive to remote workers, especially since Greece introduced a digital nomad visa that allows foreigners to live and work remotely for extended periods. There are trade-offs though. Unemployment is higher than the EU average, bureaucracy can be slow, and public services often feel stretched. Healthcare in the public system has limitations, although private care is widely used and still affordable compared to Northern Europe. For remote earners, Athens offers a rare mix of low costs, sea access, and everyday beauty that's hard to match. Number 7. Tallinn, Estonia. Estonia did something in the 1990s that almost no country in Europe attempted. At the same scale, it moved its entire government onto the internet. Today, you can file taxes in minutes, register a company in a single afternoon, access medical records from anywhere, and even vote online. This shift wasn't just innovation for its own sake. After leaving the Soviet Union, Estonia had limited resources, so building digital systems was faster and cheaper than rebuilding everything physically. Over time, that decision turned the country into one of the most advanced digital societies in the world. The capital, Tallinn, sits on the Baltic Sea and combines modern tech culture with a medieval old town that still feels untouched. Cobblestone streets, stone towers, and preserved architecture sit just minutes away from startup offices and co-working spaces. A one-bedroom apartment in the city usually costs between €700 and €1,000, while monthly living expenses outside rent are around €650. Average net salaries range from €1,500 to €2,000, with much higher pay in tech and startup roles. Public transport in Tallinn is free for residents, and Estonia uses the euro as part of the EU and Schengen zone. The trade-off is climate winters are long, dark, and cold. But for digital workers, Estonia offers one of the most efficient, modern, and streamlined lifestyles in Europe. Number 6. Budapest, Hungary. Budapest is two cities that merged into one in 1873. Buda sits on the hills on the western bank of the Danube, quieter and residential, with the royal palace and the fisherman's bastion looking down over the river. Pest spreads flat across the eastern bank, dense and urban, home to the coffee houses, ruin bars, synagogues, and Art Nouveau architecture that give the city its specific character. The Széchenyi thermal bath fits 6,000 people in its pools and has been operating since 1913. The city's food market on Fővámos tér has run in the same iron and glass building since 1896. The average monthly net salary in Budapest runs around €1,200 to €1,600, and a one-bedroom apartment in the city center costs between €600 and €900 a month. Monthly living costs outside of housing run around €600, one of the lowest figures on this entire list for a capital city of this cultural weight. Hungary's flat income tax rate of 15% is one of the lowest in the EU, and personal income tax exemptions for workers under 25 mean younger residents keep even more of what they earn. The job market covers finance, technology, shared services, and manufacturing, with a growing number of international companies operating Budapest offices. The political environment in Hungary runs distinctly in a direction that some residents follow closely, and others ignore in daily life worth researching, before committing to a move for anyone who considers political context important to where they live. For people interested in Central European history, a rich cultural life, and the routine comfort of thermal baths every week, Budapest offers all of this at a cost of living that still leaves room in the budget at the end of the month. If you're still watching, you're clearly serious about making a move to Europe in 2026. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell because next week we're covering the best European countries for residency visas in 2026, and you're going to want that one. Now let's get into the top 5. Number 5. Prague, Czech Republic. Prague is the city people visit for a weekend and spend the next 5 years figuring out how to move to. The Old Town Square, the Charles Bridge crossing the Vltava River, the castle complex rising above the city on the hill, these aren't postcards. They're the Tuesday morning commute for people who live there. The Czech Republic has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the European Union, a manufacturing and technology sector that's been expanding steadily, and a capital city that absorbed significant international investment over the past decade without losing the architectural identity that makes it one of the most visually remarkable cities in Europe. A one-bedroom apartment in Prague's city center runs between €900 and 300 euros a month, and monthly expenses outside housing come in around 700 euros. The average monthly net salary runs around 1,600 euros to 2,100 euros, with IT, engineering, and finance roles pushing toward the top of that range and above it. The Czech koruna isn't the euro, which means currency exchange applies, but the exchange rate has been relatively stable, and the koruna's strength gives local purchasing power that the nominal salary figure sometimes understates. The beer culture here isn't a tourist gimmick. The Czech Republic consumes more beer per capita than any other country in the world, and a half-liter at a local pub costs around €1.50, which tells you something useful about the general price level of the city. Healthcare is universal and well-funded by EU standards. English proficiency among working-age residents in Prague has reached a level where navigating daily life, employment, and social life without Czech is fully realistic, though learning the language changes the experience dramatically in ways most long-term residents describe as worth the effort. Number 4. Lisbon, Portugal. Lisbon is built on 7 hills above the Tagus River, where it opens into the Atlantic, and the city uses those hills the way other cities use parks as the geography that organizes daily life, defines neighborhoods, and gives every walk somewhere to arrive at. The yellow trams that run through the steep streets of Alfama have been operating since 1901 and carry locals and visitors simultaneously without either group seeming particularly bothered by the presence of the other. The pastel de nata, the custard tart that originated in the monasteries of Belém, costs about 30 cents at any bakery in the city and arrives warm from the oven on most mornings. The average monthly net salary in Lisbon runs around 1,300 euros to 1,700 euros, which sits modest compared to Northern and Western Europe. A one-bedroom apartment in the center now runs between 1,200 euros and 1,700 euros a month, significantly higher than it was 5 years ago, pushed up by international demand and the arrival of remote workers from more expensive cities, chasing Lisbon's reputation for weather and lifestyle. Monthly expenses outside housing run around 800 euros. Portugal's NHR tax regime for new residents, which provided 10 years of reduced tax rates on foreign income, there was restructured in 2024 into a new program targeting specific professions and activities worth researching in detail before making financial plans around it. The job market in Lisbon has grown in technology, finance, and shared services, with companies including Google, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen establishing significant operations here. The Atlantic coast is accessible in under an hour. Sintra, a UNESCO heritage town of palaces in the hills above the coast, sits 30 minutes away by train. The weather runs warm and sunny for 9 months of the year, which turns out to matter more to the quality of daily life than most people account for before they move somewhere. Number 3. Berlin, Germany. Berlin has been reinventing itself for so long that reinvention has become the city's permanent identity. Berlin was divided by a wall for 28 years. After it fell, the abandoned buildings became the foundation for the city's 1990s techno scene. Today, Berlin is a hub for startups, creativity, and technology, and it remains one of Europe's most culturally diverse cities. All of this exists in a city of 3.7 million people, spread across a flat, bikeable landscape filled with lakes that turn into popular swimming spots in summer. The average monthly net salary in Berlin runs around 2,500 euros to 3,500 euros for professional roles, with technology, engineering, and creative industries pushing above that range. A one-bedroom apartment in Berlin now runs between 1,200 euros and 1,800 euros a month. The city's rents have risen considerably over the past decade. Monthly expenses outside housing run around 800 euros to 900 euros. Germany's public healthcare system covers residents automatically through employment contributions, and the level of coverage is among the strongest in Europe. Public transport in Berlin runs extensively across the U-Bahn, S-Bahn, trams, and buses at a monthly cost of 86 euros for a citywide pass. The job market here is the broadest on this list. Berlin carries technology, manufacturing, creative, academic, and government employment across a city large enough that almost any professional background has somewhere to land. The language learning curve for non-German speakers is real, though English functions well in most professional and social environments within the city. Number 2. Barcelona, Spain. Barcelona is the city where the architect Antoni Gaudí spent 43 years building a cathedral that still isn't finished, and the Sagrada Familia has become so central to the identity of the city that residents barely distinguish between the building and the skyline anymore. The Gothic Quarter contains Roman walls from the 1st century BC, 2 blocks from rooftop bars that fill up at midnight on a Tuesday. The Mediterranean sits at the end of Las Ramblas. Montjuic rises behind the city with parks and a castle that looks down over the harbor. Barcelona has been organizing its urban life around beauty and outdoor access for long enough that both feel structural rather than planned. The average monthly net salary in Barcelona runs around €1,800 to €2,400, with technology, design, tourism, and finance driving the professional market. A one-bedroom apartment in the city center runs between €1,200 and €1,800 a month, with the rental market running tightly as demand from international arrivals continues to outpace new supply. Monthly expenses outside housing run around €800. Spain's job market operates with a two-tier structure, where permanent contracts carry strong employment protections, and temporary contracts run more flexibly. Understanding which category a role falls into matters when evaluating an offer. The digital nomad visa Spain launched in 2023 remains active in 2026 and allows non-EU remote workers to live in the country legally while working for foreign employers, a pathway that has brought an additional wave of English-speaking residents into Barcelona specifically. Summers in the city run hot and dense with tourists in the central neighborhoods, and long-term residents develop instincts for which parts of the city to avoid in August and which run better without the seasonal crowd. And finally, number 1 city on this list is Vienna, Austria. Vienna has been ranked the most livable city in the world by the Economist Intelligence Unit for multiple consecutive years, and the data behind that ranking doesn't come from aesthetics alone. The city scores at or near the top on stability, healthcare, culture, environment, education, and infrastructure simultaneously, a combination of metrics that almost no other city in Europe matches across all categories at once. The public healthcare system covers residents through employer contributions and provides access to specialist care, hospital treatment, and prescription coverage at a level that consistently surprises people arriving from countries with private dominant systems. The average monthly net salary in Vienna runs around €2,200 to €3,000 for professional roles, with engineering, technology, finance, and the international organization sector, the UN, OPEC, and IAEA all operate major Vienna offices paying above that range. A one-bedroom apartment in Vienna runs between €900 and €1,400 a month, and the city's Gemeindebau social housing system, which covers roughly 60% of Viennese residents, keeps rental prices structurally lower than comparable European capitals. Monthly expenses outside housing run around €800 to €900. The Klimaticket, Austria's national public transport pass, covers unlimited travel on all public transport across the entire country: buses, trains, trams, and metro for €1,095 a year, which works out to €91 a month. Vienna's coffeehouse culture isn't a tourism product. It's a protected form of cultural heritage recognized by UNESCO, meaning the city's traditional cafes operate as social institutions where a single coffee theoretically entitles you to stay as long as you want without ordering again, a custom that's been running since the 1600s. The city sits on the Danube, an hour from the Alps, and surrounded by wine regions that produce Gruner, Veltliner, and Riesling, from vineyards that begin at the city's northern edge. For anyone building a life in Europe in 2026 and weighing salary, cost of living, quality of daily life, healthcare, and infrastructure, Vienna stands out because the practical trade-offs and the lived experience align in the same direction. So, my friend, that's our ranking of the 10 best cities to live and work in across Europe in 2026. If your city made this list or you think one got left off that deserved a spot, drop it in the comments below. I read everyone. Like the video if it helped you, subscribe for more of these every week, and I'll see you in the next one.